intent on regaining top-flight status that he lost when they were relegated in 2014 following lots of financial difficulties. Wood and his family have had a majority stake in the club since the consortium took over from previous owner Andrew Chalmers in 2019, man of the press conference. After backing their failed bid to reapply for Super League berth, Wood has now chosen to get fully involved. The Bulls, who won the title 4 times in 9 seasons between 1997 and 2005, went through 3 administrations in 5 years before finally being liquidated in 2017. He will be joined by former boxer and rugby league player turned actor Adam Fogarty, who is a fellow shareholder. The Yorkshire-born former Saints, Halifax and Wyre forward, who's 52, will concentrate on commercial and stadium issues. That's a loaded term, isn't it, for Bradford Bulls? Adam Fogarty has appeared in more than 20 films. I don't give a shit about that. Wood's appointment will also enable Chief Executive Mark Sawyer to focus fully on his role as chairman of Dewsbury, where Bradford have spent the last 2 years ground sharing.
And Tom Andrews, never afraid to get his opinion out about Bradford, says, very dodgy goings on here. A sudden move back to Bradford wouldn't be a shock, since the ground is owned by... Who was it again?
The people who've paid Nigel Woods a fuckload of money to do a fuckload of nothing.
It'd be a nice little circle of life if that money comes back. To pay for the ground. Oh dear. The nepotism of rugby league strikes again.
Look, clearly he's been pulling the strings ever since his... And we're not a video format, so you can't see my air quotes, but family sort of led the takeover consortium. So he's been chairman in all but name whilst he was scaling back his role with the International Rugby League. So he's been responsible for pushing to get back to Bradford for a while. He's responsible for, I guess, running the club in a positive direction since that liquidation. So, from that point of view, it seems good. I just wonder who's going to get ripped off and how he's going to rip them off.
Yet to be determined. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky for me because I'm utterly desperate for stability. That is that's my number one requirement after, 3 administrations in 5 years. When you see it written down, it's blimmin' depressing. That's what the club needs, rather than, looking for Super League and whatever. Ultimately, it needs to get back into Bradford and it needs to be playing consistently and, paying people and, having a team that's reasonable and, all the things that a rugby league club should be doing. Now, is Nigel Wood the best person to do that? Possibly not.
He's better than Andrew Chalmers.
Yes.
Better than Omar Khan?
Well, yeah. This is the trouble.
Better than Mark Green?
You're comparing them to an absolute bunch of ne'er-do-wells, aren't you? So I mean, we all know Nigel is fond of a decent salary package, but
Finally, though, he's putting his money back into rugby league.
Well, this is what I'm saying. The money's coming back. I don't know. It felt like it was the only show in town when Chalmers decided to walk away. I wish it hadn't been so opaque in terms of the number of people involved, like Perez and blah blah blah. And obviously Sawyer's involvement is always complicated,
And this is the difference, isn't it? Chalmers felt like he was so open, but he wasn't telling the truth. But he told a lot of, he spoke a lot.
Yeah.
Wood's very much the other side of that kind of style, isn't he? And he won't tell people very much. So maybe that will help to develop stability if they're keeping the house in order a bit better. It just depends what the truth is.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it doesn't. It smells. It smells bad for fans of other clubs, and I totally understand that. And I don't disagree with it, really. But ultimately, I'm prepared to look past it on the basis that if we can get a solid Bradford team again, and that's ultimately what I'm bothered about, because we could all pick out our own chairman and our chair people, couldn't we? So
I think ultimately that's what everyone involved in our sport should want is, especially the teams that are in the bigger drawing areas, teams that are in larger towns and cities, and teams that have got more historic place in the game and stuff, to be a stable force that can lead our sport forward. And Bradford have certainly not been that for 15 years, and maybe now potentially, because Nigel Woods, for all the things we criticise him for, had a very long tenure with the Rugby Football League and with the International Rugby League. So, is a man steeped in our sport and with longevity within our sport. And whilst, yes, he's managed to expand his waistband somewhat from taking from our sport, it doesn't. There's nothing to take, is there, from the Bradford Bulls? There's fuck all to take.
No, there really isn't. I do ultimately think that the intentions are good, because I don't see what else the intentions could be. Because, as you say, there's no gold mine hidden under those terraces, I'm afraid. There's just a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to say that whether you like him or you dislike him, that hopefully that there's actually the reasons behind it are ultimately good, even if the way that it's gone about isn't the way that you'd want it to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love it if there was another candidate who came forward who was solid and dependable, but those people didn't exist in 2019, and I'm fairly certain they don't exist now either.
No. Let's do a few quicker hitter stories then, shall we?
Yep. So, back rower James Donaldson has signed a 2-year contract extension with the Rhinos to expire at the end of 2023. Donaldson was signed by Leeds in 2019 after his release by Hull KR. He played in 16 games during 2020, helping the Rhinos to challenge Cup success.
Staying with Leeds Rhinos, hooker Cruz Leeming has signed a new deal keeping Emerald Headingley until the end of the 2024 Super League season. The 25-year-old joined the Rhinos from Huddersfield 12 months ago, winning the Challenge Cup with Leeds' last campaign. So Leeds tying down a couple of players there longer term.
Yep. So Castleford Tigers have revealed that Jack O'Neill has signed a multi-year contract, ensuring the 21-year-old will remain at Castleford beyond this season. And our other resident Cas fan, Fat Boy Rob, says, reassuring that a couple of the brighter stars have renewed early. Hopefully others will follow, and hopefully we don't make the same mistakes we made in 17 and leave some space in the cap for a new coach to put his mark on the squad.
Hashtag
Coach.
Yeah, because Niall Evans as well as reportedly signed a new deal. This was Aaron Bauer on 13 Rugby released this story, because I've not seen it reported or confirmed elsewhere, or hadn't when I put the rundown together. So, but yeah, Rob was on the show last week talking a bit about how one of his worries for Cass after Powell is that none of the squad seems to be tied down. So this will be reassuring, like Rob has said.
Yep.
Whitehaven have signed former Leigh forward Andy Thornley. The 32-year-old back rower came through the ranks at Wigan, has made more than 200 career appearances for Whitehaven, Swinton and Leigh, and of course he played for Haven in their Challenge Cup tie at the weekend.
Newcastle have signed young Salford hooker Connor Aspey on a short-term loan. Aspey's loan will initially be for 2 weeks, with the possibility to extend if both clubs agree.
Wales forward Ben Evans has been reunited with his twin brother Reece at Championship club Bradford. The 28-year-old prop, spent the last 2 seasons in France with Toulouse, but was released from the final year of his contract to enable him to return to England, and he's joined the Bulls on a 2-year deal. The Bridgend-born Evans twins joined Warrington in 2009 and played together in Super League before going their separate ways. Ben had a loan spell at Bradford in 2013 before moving to London and then Toulouse, whilst Reese had stints with Lee and Swinton before joining Bradford in 2019. The Evans are back together.
Yep. Dewsbury centre Joe Wardle has been forced to retire for a second time due to issues with his hip. The 23-year-old initially retired in April 2019 whilst at Hull KR, who he made 17 appearances for. Wardle was hoping to make a return to rugby league when he joined Championship side Dewsbury ahead of this season, but unfortunately the hip injury has resurfaced and it's left him no other option than to hang up his boots. That's sad news.
Yeah, poor fella. It's a shame that he couldn't get that second chance at things, but hopefully he'll enjoy a successful life outside of rugby now. Rochdale have announced the signing of Lewis Galbraith from Championship side Batley for an undisclosed fee. The 26-year-old centre originally made his debut for the Hornets in 2014 before 2-year stint in Australia with the Serena Crocodiles. We don't do nicknames like they do we? Galbraith returned to Rochdale in 2016 before making the switch to the Bulldogs ahead of the 2018 Championship season.
Yeah, they do have a better line in team names than we do, I'm afraid. Definitely. You said there was a late story about additional funding that had come in. Yeah,
I was just distracted by thinking, like, we should have been better. Like, Widnes should have been called the Widnes Chemics, not the Widnes Vikings, for example. We've missed opportunities. Anyway. Rugby league at professional and community game levels has received further support from the winter phase of the government sports survival package, which is focused on helping those major spectator sports severely impacted by the coronavirus restrictions survive the winter and cover essential costs. Ralph Rimmer, CEO of the RFL, said, "We are very grateful to the government and Sport England for their ongoing practical support to rugby league. They are key partners to the sport. Lockdowns and restrictions have meant 2-season impact on rugby league, with professional and community clubs having had virtually no revenues from spectators for the entirety of the 2020 season and the first half of this season. We are excited to be back at all levels, with clubs delivering outstanding sporting entertainment as well as a huge range of vital activities and services in often hard-pressed communities, all of which supports the national recovery. This further loan support of $16.7 million for the men's professional tiers builds on the $16 million loan secured last year. The $1.45 million grant aid for community clubs plus $300,000 from Sport England's Tackling Inequalities Fund for clubs in areas of the highest socio-economic deprivation is vital support for the grassroots game as it returns. This builds on a relentless programme of work by the RFL with community clubs throughout 2020 to ensure those clubs could access around $2 million in national and local government reliefs and mitigations." So yeah, the headline from that is another $16 million for the professional game available as loans to cover the continuing impacts of the coronavirus pandemic.
Have I missed some updates about what happened with the original 16 million? Or is it being kept kind of close to various people's chests? Yeah,
I don't think it's been formally confirmed what's happened where. I think a lot of the Super League clubs have had 7-figure amounts from it. And whilst at that point the Championship clubs and the League One clubs all had their staff on furlough, so we're receiving kind of support in other ways, I guess.
Yes.
So maybe more of this might find its way to those clubs that now are playing with no income, whereas they weren't last year.
Yeah, that would make sense. So, the Rugby League World Cup 2021 has further strengthened its board by making 3 significant appointments. So, fervent Rugby League fan Jonathan Kane, Lord Kane, who served as Special Advisor to 6 Secretaries of State for Northern Ireland, will become the Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport representative on the tournament's board.
It was Lord Kane who ultimately got Lee back in Super League, wasn't it? He was on that panel, wasn't he?
Oh, so he's to blame.
I think he was on that panel.
Well, hopefully we won't be left with similar decisions. Anyway, Sue Catton will be the UK sport representative and was head of events and competitions at England and Great Britain Hockey. Delivered 4 major European and world level back-to-back events, culminating in the successful Women's Hockey World Cup in 2018. Previously, Sue was the sport manager for both hockey